All right, so where is God in our suffering? That's a question a lot of people ask. And as we go through life, we experience horrible things, like some nasty stuff is thrown our ways, and people ask that all the time. Where is God in our suffering? Why does God allow suffering? And I think in this lifetime, we won't always get an answer, but there's some perspectives that can help, and we have to think about just who God is and what God does and his power. And so there's a few things about ourselves that we need to come to realize. So one, as human beings, as finite beings, we only see so much. And we have to realize that all that we can see is not all that there is. There's things going on in the spiritual realm that we're not even aware of. It hasn't been revealed to us yet. So some scriptural examples is in 2 Kings chapter 6, Elisha is in a village and the king of Syria is trying to kill him. He sends his army, and Elisha's servant is panicking. He says, what do we do? What do we do? And Elisha prays and he says, Lord, open the eyes of my servant. And he sees chariots of fire and angels surrounding them and protecting them. Another example is Daniel chapter 9 and 10. Daniel's praying and the angel appears to him and he talks about, there's a cosmic battle taking place around him. And so there's a lot of things happening that we just can't see. Next thing is we have to realize that our minds are sinful. Everything we think is in this lifetime is affected by sin. When we go to heaven, that's going to be taken out of us. But for now, our thoughts are tainted by sin, and sometimes, unfortunately, when we think about suffering and our experiences, it's tainted by, to an extent, it's even tainted by us having contempt for God. Now, I do want to be clear that there is a difference between the saved and the unsaved. I believe that for the people who reject the gospel and don't go to heaven because they reject Christ, they didn't accept his atonement on the cross, part of the misery of hell may be having to spend eternity of not having these deeper questions answered, like, where is God in our suffering? Now, one scripture that I found to be very helpful is Genesis chapter 28. And this tells a story where Jacob, he's fleeing from his brother Esau. He stole the blessing from his brother Esau, and Esau wants to kill him. And so he's fleeing, he's going away to a foreign land, he's left his family. And in chapter 28, Jacob, he's in Bethel, and he lays down on the ground at night, and he goes to sleep. And while he's sleeping, he has a vision of angels coming up and down from heaven. And when Jacob wakes up, in verse 16, he says, surely God is in this place, and I didn't even know it. So from an earthly perspective of things that happen in this lifetime, I know there's been things that have taken place in my own life where I went through a trial, then later on in life, looking back, perspectives change, God teaches you things, and you look back and you say, wow, God was working that whole time, and I didn't even realize it until now. But there's even bigger things that happen, where things that are just so horrible, where it's like you can't explain it, and you're thinking, what was God's purpose for that? And sometimes in this lifetime we won't get an answer at all. But as far as the goodness of God goes, and things happening around us that we're not even aware of, let's speculate. Let's think for a minute. Now, just imagine, for those who have been redeemed by Christ, we die, and we're in heaven. At this point, we're in eternity. God has pulled back the veil. We're in his presence. And God has as much time to do whatever he likes. Imagine if God took the time to review your entire life before you, like your entire life's events, and God were to walk you through your entire life right before your eyes. And he's not doing it for the purpose of showing you how you were wrong your whole life or condemning you, but rather God's doing it to show you just how close he was the entire time. Even the darkest moments of our life, maybe you can think of an experience where you just cringe to think back on it. Maybe it's an experience where even the devil himself was present. And God says to you, yes, even that time, I'm going to walk you through that too to show you just how present I was. And I really believe when God does this, we're going to be astonished at just how close he was the whole time. And the feelings of horror will be rendered completely powerless. Perhaps if it's something where Satan himself was present, even he will be rendered completely powerless. And we're just going to be astonished at how close God was and how good he was the whole time.